Cancun, Cancun, Cancun. Normally what happens in Cancun stays in Cancun. That is pretty much the mantra that I think we all came away with after a couple of weeks there. But there's a couple of stories that have to be shared. I think they're absolutely brilliant and they're all good fun. But all you need to know, 5 lads, all inclusive, 2 weeks in Cancun. It's going to get a bit messy, to say the least. At certain times, it did get quite messy. But a couple of stories that were really good fun. So there was 5 of us in total. In a nutshell, you got myself, got Aaron, another chap as well. We are of a fairly big build. Then another friend of ours and my brother, who are a relatively slim build, slimmer sticks. And we got to this water park one day. And again, not a lot of people there, so it was wonderful. So you're just going on ride after ride after ride after ride. But one of the rides, you walk up all these stairs, you get into a big rubber ring, normally for 8 people, and you go down. You got like these various humps that you go down, and you end up at the bottom. Bit of a splash. It's almost like a log flume, but on a big rubber ring. So we've done that, and you use the weight of yourselves to go down. So what was good fun is we decided for a laugh that the 2 slimmer people should go down on a rubber ring to see how it worked for them, and then the 3 burly guys would do the same to see what happened. There's always points in life where in a very split second you're going to fear the worst, and this was one of those. The slim guys, they made it down easily. They didn't get a lot of traction, but it was good fun. Whereas us 3 carrying a few excess pounds, the guy pushed the lever, so the tube or the rubber ring goes up, you start going down. The sheer velocity was incredible. There was a split second I thought we were going to go flying off of the track. We'd got that much air time because of our build. I thought we were going to go flying off and it would just end in absolute disaster. As you go over the humps, normally you would stick to the humps. We were getting some serious air time. I kid you not, it felt like a Boeing 737. We were getting serious air time. So much so that when we landed, on the sort of regular landing spot, we'd far gone past that. I think we ended up going round the bend before the guy just looked at us at the bottom and dragged us back and got us out safely. I probably appreciate that's not the best description, but basically, if there's a bunch of big lads and you're going to get in the same dinghy to go down in a water park, just be very careful because you're going to get a lot of damn airtime. It was great fun, but it's just that split second thinking of, just had a feeling that we could have just taken off and started our own flight. It was very scary. I don't think you could have got to the end of this trip without hearing a little bit more about football. Yeah, there's a little bit more about football. We ended up seeing a cracking game. The local team, I think it was FC Atlante at the time. I think they've renamed themselves since then. We'd gone to the local stadium and it was a ridiculously brilliant 3-3. Now, if you remember the greatest game of football that we've said we've ever seen was in Cusco, this ran it very, very close. There was red cards, there was goals, you name it. It was relatively expensive to get in. It was a good atmosphere. This game had absolutely everything. It was a cracking 3-3, so we had a good time doing that. But as alluded to before, we didn't really do a lot in Cancun. It's just a lot of drinking, a lot of playing around in the pools. We did get into a routine though of every morning we would take 15 to 20 minutes to sit in the steam room to sweat everything out. We would then from there go into the plunge pool. We egged each other on to just jump into the plunge pool. That was an experience. That cooled you down. Then we sit in the jacuzzi. We found that way to start the day before breakfast was brilliant, because that kind of gets everything out of your system. A couple of the lads went off to do a couple of trips. They done a couple of trips. And everyone went off to Tulum to go and visit one of the most famous Maya sites known, because it's on a beach. And they were the ones in Tulum. Now, yours truly didn't end up going on that trip because I'd given myself concussion. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Rob, how did you do that? Well, what happened was that one day we were getting into a lift I don't remember if alcohol was involved. It might have been, might not have been, don't really remember. And there was a bellboy there, and he, had no suitcases on his Ujima Bobs there. And I said for a laugh, can I get on? So I did. I pretended to be a suitcase, which even just saying that sentence kind of makes me think alcohol was involved. And without looking, I got onto the thing and lifted my head up, but I smacked my head on the metal bar straight away. Smacked my head on the metal bar, and I'm prone to giving myself concussions. And I kind of knew what was going to happen the minute I'd done that. So yeah, I did smack my head on the bellboy's metal, much to everyone's delight. But from there, I'd ruled myself out for a couple of days. Immediately ruled myself out for a couple of days. I wasn't quite feeling right after that. I knew that I'd given myself a concussion straight away. So that was much to everyone's entertainment. And the other thing, if you've never been to Mexico before, you might have heard of a term called Montezuma's Revenge, which is basically, I'd say, the Mexican equivalent of Delhi Belly. Now, thankfully, Aaron and I hadn't experienced this at all. I think where we've been so used to travelling in and around, Central America, we hadn't experienced such a thing. But there was just something, I don't know, in the water or something that we ate that basically ended up with Montezuma's Revenge. Not good. This was at the same time as having concussion as well. So really, it was not a good few days for me. But the fun part was in the first bout of Montezuma's Revenge, you've done the business that you need to do. And stupidly, where it was so warm outside, I decided not to open the window, but to put the fan on. And in my slightly concussed state, forgot to shut the bathroom door. So this smell, shall we say, is emanating from the toilet, and it's just been circulated around the room because I've put the fan on without really thinking it through. Aaron walked in and was crying pretty much. I'm not sure whether he was crying with me or laughing at me or laughing with me, I don't know. But the look on his face was priceless when he realised what I'd done. I then happened to get myself off of the bed and nearly fell back onto it. The smell that was coming from my room at the time was not pleasant at all. Other interesting things, apart from having a good laugh in the swimming pool and playing some ball games, when the guys were off at Tulum, and they said it was a great trip. They said they really enjoyed it. The fact that you've got the ruins on the beach is quite nice. Since this trip, I have gone to Tulum itself. I didn't actually enjoy the site that much. Too many tourists for my liking, and I don't think you're getting a great representation of Maya sites or the Maya in general. But maybe that's just my Ebenezer Scrooge coming out. Whilst they were off on tour, I spent just a couple of days by the pool. Ironically, met someone from Reading. He was there with his wife honeymooning and just drank loads of strawberry daiquiris, relaxed by the pool, didn't do too much. And then there came Coco Bongos. And there was a night out where Coco Bongos is a very famous club in Cancun. We had basically spent the day drinking, ended up in Coco Bongos after visiting a variety of bars and places, all part of this little tour package as such. So we'd done all of that, and my vague memory from that place was number one, getting kicked out, and number two, taking it out on a bus on the way back home. I remember punching the windows, punching the side of the bus. I was very angry that we'd been kicked out, probably very angry that I drank that much alcohol anyway. And that was an interesting evening. Some of the stories we shared the following day over breakfast won't be repeated, but they were entertaining to say the least. And bless my brother, I have to say that he probably accrued some of the worst sunburn I've ever seen in my life. He looked like he had pretty much been boiled alive on one of the latter days as well. There was skin everywhere, and not very pleasant looking thing. So bless him for that. But he's a soldier. He saw it through. The last major surprise, though, having been operating in a budget, having been not liking unexpected costs, was finding out at the airport that we had to pay a tourist tax to leave. Now, the lads that had joined us specifically for Cancun, all their taxes were included, but because Aaron and I had come into Mexico via land and left via plane, we had to pay a tourist tax to leave. I think it was about 40, 50 quid if I remember correctly, and that put me in an absolute foul mood for the plane home. As you heard back in 2011, the last couple of days and, the day of going home, it's always a sad occasion. You look back with fondness of things that you've achieved. You look back in fondness of, what happened, the experiences you can take from what you've seen and done. But for some reason, that wasn't helping me at the time. And then having an unexpected cost of about 50 quid, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing. But that really pissed me off on the day. And again, everyone was just laughing at me. My absolute fury at the airport of having to pay a exit tax to leave a country. I think that, and the fact that Mexicans do look after their people quite well in terms of free entry to things on Sundays and discounted entry in comparison to Los Gringos. I think all of that just got on top of me in that one very moment. So not a very happy bunny at the airport there in Cancun. And that was it. Next thing you know, we're back in the UK. We've all travelled back. And that's it. The story ends there. But the story doesn't really end there. Because travelling opens your eyes. It opened our eyes in numerous different ways. We learnt a lot. We appreciated things a lot more. And as I've alluded to in previous episodes and on the property side of the podcast, it was thanks to travelling that we started talking about getting into property, getting into asset accumulation in order to enjoy more experiences travelling further on down the line. But that's 2014, 2015, that's that done. What we're going to do next week is round up some top tips that we learned from travelling, and then we'll go into a period of a little bit of reflection. I will explain a recent trip to Mexico as well to update on a few things, and then from there it's time for another World Cup. Join us next week when we go through top tips that we learned from travelling. Hasta luego.